Then we moved to Florida, 2009. I started working at a Scientology company. 3 years, and then roughly like just a couple months later, this was like May 2009. A couple months later, a friend of mine who also was a Scientologist, who like we would research like anti-Scientology stuff together. We like consider us we were like, what are we gonna read that's gonna make us not like Scientology? Like, are you crazy? Like, why do these people keep thinking that we're like so dumb that we're gonna read something that we're gonna misinterpret something? Like, obviously these guys are crazy. Like, they don't know Scientology. We'll look at the stuff. We'll check it out for ourselves, and we'll figure out a way that. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to see all the bad stuff about Scientology so that we could explain it to non-Scientologists, like so that we could think of like good rebuttals and stuff. We wanted to like nip this shit in the bud because we thought that like they weren't handling it right. Just don't look at it. Just don't look at it. No, we gotta take this shit head on. You know what I'm saying? We gotta find out everything they're saying about us, and we gotta rebut that shit. You know what I mean? And then he came upon some truth rundown type stuff with the Tampa Bay Times when Mark Rathbun came out with all that stuff, and then he convinced me to take a look at it. It wasn't very hard to do because we'd already kind of like had that thing going, and I spent like several hours just watching those videos, and I was just like mouth hanging open, like my entire existence is completely different from everything I've ever known. Wow. Well, my entire life is a lie. I have been wasting 25, well, I'm 26 now. I didn't start reading until I was like 3 or 4. So I've been wasting my life for like, 23 years. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. And then you're left with like, what am I gonna do? What do I believe? What should I think about the entire universe? You know what I mean? What should I think about the afterlife? You got to rethink a lot of different things. You know what I mean? It kind of just leaves this gaping hole in your entire sense of like being. Your whole existence is like, especially with a cult. Your whole existence is like this. I like the way I think about it is like Scientology is like a system of thought, right? Like every person when they're born, they have to start interpreting the the perceptions that are coming in to them, like their eyes, their ears, everything they smell, everything they taste. They have to start interpreting these things and deciding how they feel about them, and like is this painful? Is this not? Et cetera, et cetera. I forget where I was going with that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So everything is a system, especially like a religious or a philosophical school of thought. It's a system of how to interpret reality. Like Scientology is not a suggestion to its practitioners. Scientology is the way that you uh, dismantle the problems of life and solve the problems of life. A scientist would use the scientific method. A historian would, look in his history books and try and figure out whatever solution he's coming up with based on that. Scientology is like this system. It's a closed system. It's a closed loop of how to think, and it's got to be the same with like pretty much every other cult or brainwashing. Like you become your own jailer. You're the one keeping the keys to the lock in your brain because you keep telling yourself, no, I can't use this key on that lock because if I do that, it'll be out ethics. Is like what you think every time. You go like, should I look at this black PR or or am I just going to get in huge fucking trouble? You know what I mean? Like I'm so curious what they're saying out there about Scientology. I mean, what are they saying about us? You know what I mean? I'm so curious, but I'm going to get in fucking trouble if I if I say or do anything that would denigrate or lessen the importance of Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard, then I'm gonna be fucked. Like, I'm going to come across stress, pain, something negative is going to happen every time I have a negative thought that leads to a negative action against Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard. So I have to. So like as a Scientologist, that's what you're doing. You're constantly reevaluating. Like, am I doing this the way that a Scientologist should be doing this thing? Like, how would a Scientologist handle this? What is the tech on this? What would L. Ron Hubbard do to solve this problem? Is all you're doing as a Scientologist? Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm not as smart as L. Ron Hubbard. I will not be able to figure out a better way to do this than L. Ron Hubbard. So I hit a problem. I go to Scientology. I shoehorn an answer from Scientology into my life to get this thing to work, and now I can go back to trying to make more money to pay for more Scientology.
Right. Let me ask you a question. You mentioned that you and your friend had this thing you guys were doing of like reading the negative shit online so that you could come up with the proper answers for non-Scientologists who raise these questions. Before you read the Tampa Bay Times Truth Rundown articles, were you pretty much unfazed by any of the stuff you had read before that?
Yeah, pretty much, because like I thought that there was like a good I like figured out like a good reason in my head that those were like bullshit stories. Like they just had it wrong. They're just operating off of false data. They don't know the true story. They're saying that because they just heard somebody else say it. It's just bullshit. Like they don't know. They come spend a day with me in any org. I'll show you that what you're talking about is a complete fluke. If it ever even happened, there's no way something like that would happen in my org. You know what I mean?
Right. So what was different about the shit you had seen online that was negative about Scientology before the Truth Rundown articles? What was different between that stuff and what you read in the Truth Rundown articles?
You know what? The main difference was the other stuff was like anti L. Ron Hubbard, and the Truth Rundown stuff was all anti the current regime. So like hitting it from that angle, I think was like a good idea. Like they got lucky in that way. I think like the heaviest blow dealt to Scientology so far was because of that.
Okay, so I want to drill into this a little bit more. Is it that the very concept that there was anti-L. Ron Hubbard was just a bridge too far for you, or was there something about what you were reading that didn't sound credible?
Plausibility. You got L. Ron Hubbard, who's like been dead for 20 years at that point. You got like and that was pre-internet. That was like there's no way to research all that shit that went down back then. A modern Scientologist would just have to go like, gotta just kind of go with how L. Ron Hubbard says it was. You know what I mean? What else are we gonna do?
Okay. So it's that they were talking that the shit that people were talking about L. Ron Hubbard, you sort of saw it as a he said, she said, how do we really know? The guy's been dead for 20 years. But then you read the Truth Rundown stuff and it's talking about present time shit from people you know about people you know. That was the big difference.
The big difference with this was like it was an easier sell. L. Ron Hubbard is God. He's Jesus. He's untouchable. You can't. L. Ron Hubbard never did anything wrong. But now David Miscavige. Now there's a guy who he's not as cool as L. Ron Hubbard, but he almost did. He kind of seems like he's trying to be a little bit. I mean, maybe you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So when you read the Truth Rundown stuff, how did things change for you after that point?
Pretty major. The baby mom and I had a schism over it. She did not want to leave Scientology and all that because her mom was in, her aunt was in. It was her whole life, and I personally believe that she's not really that into it, but she's just kind of just going through the motions because who cares, really? I mean, like we're all gonna die anyway. I don't think she didn't get into it until she was like 12, and like there wasn't even any mention of it before that. So like her mom got her into it. Her dad was never a Scientologist. I don't think she really is one. She just got caught up in it, and now it's like, all her friends are Scientologists, so who gives a shit? But she does have a devout Scientologist husband and devout Scientology friends, which means I am not that important.
Okay, so you had basically a falling out with your baby mama at that time, and then what else happened?
So she kept it a secret though, that like I was out, and let's see, or she tried to. You know what? I'll bet she had to report it at some point, and like it just nobody ever came up and talked to me about it. At that time, like they weren't like cracking down. It was kind of like there were so many people who were disaffecting that it was kind of like, let's just like not rock the boat. Let everybody just kind of like settle down. We had this whole big Tampa Bay thing. Let's just call everyone. We sent out the rebuttals. Like there was that anti Martin Rathbun magazine that they sent out to like millions of subscribers or whatever. They've got all that taken care of. So like everybody, let's just calm down. Everybody, let's take a breather. Nobody's cracking down on anybody. Nobody's saying anything hasty. Don't say you're not going to be a Scientologist anymore. Let's just all chill out. Maybe we'll change some policies around. Maybe we'll calm things down a little bit. Things ain't so bad anymore. I mean, come on, like this guy comes out, that's a fluke. Don't worry about it. And like here, like fuck you. I'm thinking like this is fucking bullshit. I just read L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah or Madman. Eat shit, you motherfuckers, with your fucking mission holders. 10%. Oh, all of a sudden now you get 90%, motherfuckers. What the fuck is wrong with you assholes? All these people trust you. All these people think that you're there to try and help them save the entire universe, and you're fucking stealing their money. Yeah. Fuck you. And like okay. I have to fucking sit here and like deal with this shit every day. I got to go to work, and like people are constantly talking about fucking conditions and like Scientology this and L. Ron Hubbard that, and like what's the best policy letter for this situation, blah blah blah.
So many people were reading this Tampa Bay Times thing and getting all worked up and talking shit, and people connected to people, married to people, working for people who are reading this fucking thing, that they're like, if we kick everyone out who's being bad right now, we ain't gonna have anybody left.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.